Welcome to the Success with Jewelry podcast, where we invite you inside our conversations about business success and marketing for jewelry designers and entrepreneurs.
We're Laryssa and Liz, jewelry marketing experts with a combined 16 years of experience in jewelry marketing and proven track records in helping jewelry brands meet their goals. When you listen to or watch this podcast, you'll get an intimate and exclusive peek behind the curtain of all the things you wish you could know about earning success in this industry.
Welcome to episode 77. In this episode, Laryssa and I are going to celebrate our business anniversaries. We'll share some of our biggest lessons we've learned since starting each of our businesses. We also want to tell you about our insider community. When you join, you'll have access to extended episodes full of tips that you can start implementing today and further resources about each topic we discuss. In the bonus content of this episode, we'll share our biggest mistakes. To get access to exclusive content as well as direct access to me and Laryssa, sign up by visiting successwithjewelry.com. Hey, Laryssa, let's get into it.
Let's celebrate.
Let's celebrate. We have so much to celebrate in general. I mean, we still haven't celebrated 1,000 followers on Instagram. We still haven't celebrated like 50 episodes of this podcast, which I think we're like almost at 80 at this point. Oh, yes, this is
Yes,
70.
almost 80. Mm-hmm.
So maybe we'll celebrate at 100.
Oh, that sounds great. Also celebrating it's springtime.
My kid just turned 3.
Aw.
I've been in business for 8 years,
Me
which is
too. In May, I've been in business for 8 years.
that's wild that our business anniversaries align.
You're a little bit ahead of me, so you might have like 2 more months of wisdom on me.
Doubtful. Okay, so first let me ask you this question of when did you launch your business? You already said May of 2016, right?
Yes. Hmm.
And why? What inspired you to do that?
Yeah. Wow. I don't know if I've ever told any of this on this podcast. I feel like I've talked about it somewhere before, but I was in a big life transition at the time. It was a very big life transition. My quarter life crisis, let's say. I was like moving to LA with a boyfriend I had at the time, and we were like gonna make this big jump together to move across country. And I also left what I thought was kind of gonna be my career, teaching creative writing. There were some things that came up that made me think like, I don't know if I really want to do this. And I had like a crisis about that. But one thing that had been consistent all along was I was always doing marketing because teaching creative writing as like a part-time adjunct professor does not pay the bills.
Especially
And
in
like,
LA, I imagine.
yeah, that was something I did not want to keep doing here. So I was always doing some kind of freelance work. And if any millennials out there are listening and you kind of finished school like we did at the height of the financial crisis, you can probably relate. Unless you were really lucky, it was really kind of tough to get a job in certain fields, like when we finished school, because no one was hiring. Especially in the industries that we're kind of in, like the digital media, the communications. There was also so much transition happening with like publications closing and everything transitioning to social media. And people were like, we don't understand this digital landscape. Like, what's happening? And that, at least for me, was the future I was trying to get myself involved in. And so I was just trying to like pave my way doing the teaching, doing some other part-time writing, marketing stuff, digital media, digital marketing, and amassed this resume that just made no friggin' sense at all because it was just such a mix of things. But ultimately, I think that all helped me because I have all these different skills and experience in all these different aspects of marketing and digital media. And when I was about to move, I'm like, what am I going to do in LA? Like, I think I wanted to go in the marketing direction. And I remember just being at this, like, silly summer part-time job I had, like, right before I moved because I was like, "I just need to have something before I move, get a little bit extra cash to help pay for this, like, move that I'm about to make." And I was, like, really bored one day sitting at the, like, cash register where I was working, and I, like, wrote on a receipt that I was, like, gonna do jewelry marketing. And it was so random. I mean, not so random. I love jewelry. I was like, I've always been obsessed with jewelry. Um, I had worked part-time at like a jewelry store and I had like that sales customer service experience. And then obviously I had all this marketing background. And I was like, if I could come up with like my dream job, jewelry marketing. And that's what I thought to myself when I was, I don't know, I guess I was 29 at that point. Now, the reality of it was it didn't magically turn into joy joy as it is today. There was a lot of, like, struggle and transition along the way, but that was, like, the point where I was like, "I need to make this happen." So that was the beginning of it.
That's so interesting. You like put it on your vision board and it happened.
Kinda, yeah.
It happened. I did not know that. I'd never thought about jewelry. That's like that was not part of my plan, necessarily. But also, I think it's interesting. We've never talked about this. I mean, I don't think we should dive into it on our like public podcast, but we both have moved across the country with or for boyfriends, and it did not work out.
And it didn't work out, but it brought us to, like, a new place.
Totally. And my situation of moving to Denver for this boyfriend led to me finding a job at Todd Reed on Craigslist. So,
Oh
I
my
went,
gosh, we have such similar paths.
right?
Yeah, because when I moved to LA, I couldn't obviously immediately start a business. I didn't have any, like, real jewelry marketing experience. I mean, I had a lot of marketing experience and I had some jewelry experience, but I had to get my first job when I moved to LA was like a contract job in downtown in the jewelry district for this like wedding jewelry manufacturer, like doing their marketing. And that was like the beginning of it.
That's so funny. Our paths are so similar and so different. Uh, I started my consulting business because I was offered an opportunity to curate the new designer gallery for JA New York, and that
Mhm.
was just a contract position. And I wanted to do that, and then I started consulting designers also. So I had like this full time like content strategy business, which was like the start of Stay Gold. And then I was working in the trade show world too. And that was in March 2016, which is just wild. 8 years flies by.
Seems so long ago, but yet not long ago at all.
I know. What are some of the milestones and big wins that you've had along the way that stand out in your mind?
Hmm. Great question. I mean, I think when I first transitioned to doing my business full time, for a while, it seemed like that was an impossible thing. I think part of it was because I said I was caught up in this like hustling mindset where I was always doing all these like piecemeal freelance jobs to make ends meet. And the move from that to like saying, okay, this is like the full time thing I want to do for myself and have enough clients to sustain that, it felt like a huge leap in my mind. And when I finally was able to do it, that was like, wow, okay. It like broke a barrier in my head, kind of.
Yeah, I think that once you like kind of figure out when I figured out like my client mix and like workload mix that felt really good, which is actually pretty recent for me. But I think that felt like the sense of accomplishment I was looking for because it had always been like hustle mode, grasping for more. And I
Hmm.
think that once I decided that like, okay, well, this is the amount of money I want to make, this is the amount of hours I want to work and trying to figure that out. And it's always kind of like a little bit of adjusting when you have your own business, I think. But I would say that's my biggest sense of accomplishment is like finding that mix feels really good.
I would say, I mean, that's really awesome. I don't think I've gotten there.
You have it.
Because the thing is too, my business is still evolving a lot, and even just this year, I changed, like, a lot of things, and typically when you have a big change, that means there's going to be growing pains. And in the past, like, especially 2 months, I've been working like crazy. And I don't want that. I don't want that forever. I know it's not forever, but at least for me, there I definitely have periods where I'm like, okay, we're back to kind of starting. We're like reinventing ourselves, like in a way, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like you are also thinking about your business a little bit differently than I am, whereas
Yeah.
you're hiring people, you're growing something, you're stepping away from some of the client interaction, stepping away from like certain and overseeing certain things rather than like holding on to it all. Where I'm like, I want to be touching every aspect of my business and I'll outsource some like maybe some copywriting, maybe some graphic design, but for the most part, I want to be in it. And I think that I just have to think about it differently than you.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. For me, I'm always trying to break things and then build them back up, hopefully like stronger. And that's sometimes painful.
Definitely. Yeah, I was talking about I did a live interview with Erica from Gemology Geek yesterday, and she's doing this great series called The Unstoppable Female Force, and she's interviewing 16 women in the industry about their career journey. And it's so interesting to talk about a career journey because I don't think about it much anymore. Because like, I'm here, I'm in the jewelry industry, like I'm not leaving, like this is what I'm
Yeah.
doing kind of thing. Where was I going with this? Um, I don't know where I was going with that thought
I
at
don't
all.
know either.
Oh, I remember now. Okay. So I was talking about you because you have hired people
Yeah.
successfully, like you've grown your business. And that is something for me that isn't necessarily a goal of mine, but just feels so unattainable a little bit for me. If I wanted to do it, I'm sure I could, but it feels like so impressive.
That was another point, like talking about kind of those milestones. Like that first one was me real deciding I could do this full time. The next thing that kind of like you, I couldn't even imagine for a long time was having that like first employee. Like I was like, how? I don't understand. Like I have to, this person is kind of like depending on me for like money, how do I do this? And it was fine. Like, it's like these mental hurdles that we have to get over, I think.
You also wrote a book. I feel like you have so many
I
like
forgot about that.
clearer successes and milestones than I do. You wrote a book.
I forgot I wrote a book.
That's wild. That's another thing that I think of you at this when I think of you and I'm like, oh my gosh, Laryssa is so impressive. She has employees and she wrote a book.
I think for me, the book thing, I understand it's like impressive to other people. And it was a huge project, don't get me wrong. But I think because I have that background in writing and I had done a lot of big writing projects before, I'm kind of like, yeah, whatever. Like, that's like, whatever. That's not as big of a deal to me. But it did take a long time to do.
Sure. For me, a lot of my like big successes or like big wins and things like that have to do with just like seeing designers that I'm supporting have wins and success.
Yeah.
You know what I
Do
mean?
you have one like in particular that's really stuck with you over the years?
Uh no, because there's been so this not to like build myself up, but there has been so many, you know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
like doing trade shows, like when, oh, here's a good one. Emily Shapiro did one of my first trade shows with her fine collection, and she got into Love Adorned, which is like obviously such a great store, and
Mhm.
had a great relationship with Love Adorned for a long time. That felt like a really great win because, I was inviting buyers to this trade show. All the trade shows I've curated in the past, I'm like inviting buyers. I'm telling buyers, editors, and everyone about the designers who are exhibiting. And to see a connection like, take off and pay off it always just feels really good. And a lot more, good things have happened from these trade shows and from like, Gals in the Stay Gold Collective when they like get their first piece of press or they make a big sale. Like, I mean, I hear from them weekly about great things that are happening. And even if I play just like a tiny part in supporting that, it just feels really good.
That's very rewarding. I love that.
Yeah. Um, okay. So what goals do you see for yourself in the future?
I I don't know. I was kind of thinking about this earlier this week because sometimes when I'm really stressed out, I'm in like an overwhelming period of my business. I really lose sight of sometimes what I like about it because you're just so tired and everything is hard. And I had just like a moment this week where I was in a flow, like I was working on something, and I was like, all stress and overwhelm aside, this is like what I want to be doing. Like, I love this. And it's like, I just want to get to a place where I feel that more. Like, there's less of the bad stuff and there's more of the like, I'm really proud of this. I really love this. And I can just have more of that feeling, if that makes sense.
I That's so great. And I feel like it's like when you own your own business, it's like a daily kind of mental Olympics to get over the imposter syndrome or to get over the burnout or to get over the overwhelm.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I feel that sometimes too when that like comes through that like, oh, this feels really good. I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad I'm doing this. And it's like remembering those moments, like writing them down, like noting when they're happening, I think is really important because then tomorrow, maybe that like overwhelm will take over again.
Yeah. The overwhelm is hard. Liz
Hard.
and I privately talk about the overwhelm a lot.
Yes.
Um, and thankfully, it's not a forever thing for me. I just have periods of it. But in those times, I think I'm like, why? Can I just work at a coffee shop or something?
Yeah.
Like, this is awful.
That's the dream. It's not the dream though. Like, I mean, really, this is the dream for me. It's just like the flexibility of it,
Mhm.
the like the cool things that I can do, the people I can connect with. It's just, it really is kind of amazing. I can't believe what we've built. It's
I
very
know, I
cool.
feel that way too. Thinking about 8 years ago on a friggin' receipt while I was sitting at a part-time job at a cash register, like I actually made that real. And I can like tell people that and they're like, oh, that's so random. How did you like get into jewelry marketing? Like that's so specific. And I'm like, well, I made this all up myself. Like.
I created it from nothing, which is the
Yeah,
coolest part.
basically. That's
Yeah,
so cool that we did that.
so cool that we did that. All right. Well,
What are
we've
your goals?
oh, yeah. I guess I could share that. I don't know what my goals are. I don't know what my goals are, Larissa. I mean, a big dream of mine is to like grow the Stay Gold Collective
Mhm,
to a point where it's still manageable and I like know everyone and I know what's going on in everybody's businesses and can like do one-on-one chats and support and stuff like that. But have that be like my main source of income so that I don't have to necessarily do the one-on-one client thing
yep,
anymore, even
mhm,
though I do enjoy that. But I think that just focusing on Stay Gold and being able to put more time into that, even though I already put a lot of time into that, even more time and resources into it.
mhm,
And this year I feel good about some of the like projects I have coming up, but I just have so many ideas. And the more I get off my plate, the more I'll be able to focus on that and do that. So I think that that's a big goal of mine. A goal of mine definitely was getting back into the trade show world. And I'm glad to be doing that with New York Now. It's just like such a nice fit and it's such a
yeah.
cool program and opportunity. So that feels really good. But yeah, I think just to really grow and nurture the Stay Gold Collective would be my goal for now.
Yeah, I like what you said. I put a lot of pressure on myself to like try to keep coming up with ways to help, especially independent designers who don't have big marketing budgets. And because the people are like, Larissa, like, when are we gonna be able to do this? Or when will you be able to like help me with this thing? And like I can't right now just because of resources, but like all of that is in my head. It's like I put a lot of pressure on myself to try to keep innovating and like pushing and coming up with these new ways. So that's a goal too, I guess.
You're always coming up with new stuff and innovating. And I feel like I can't get myself like like churning fast enough to do that stuff. And um yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but
It's
it's
a
like not,
blessing and a curse because I
yeah,
have all the ideas, but then when you implement a whole bunch of changes all at once, that means that everything gets really stressful and things break and things get out of control and
it's
like
just
you
a lot.
work
I really got
extra.
so down having,
Yeah.
definitely. I got so down this year having a toddler, and which is fine. And I'm kind of like just accepting that as like, I don't need to be huge. I don't need to be doing all this stuff. And I think that's okay to have as a goal too. It's just to like have a really strong work-life balance.
100%. I want that too, but
Yeah. You need to start taking Fridays off. That should be a goal for you.
okay, you heard it first here on the podcast. That's the goal that I have.
Work less. One of my goals is to like work less. Not really. I love working. I love
Yeah.
doing all the things I'm doing, but continuing to maintain the flexibility.
I am taking the afternoon off today to play tennis, so there's that.
Look at you. Playing
That's so
tennis.
fancy.
It's so fancy. My dad's very into pickleball, so I
Oh,
talk.
yeah, my mother-in-law is obsessed with pickleball.
All right. Well, we'd love to hear more about you. Tell us about your business milestones, wins, and lessons. Visit successwithjewelry.com. We'd love to know what you're thinking, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have. Thanks for being a part of the Success with Jewelry community.